Welcome to episode 71 of Broad Street Hustle. It's opening night of the NFL. As we broadcast this, they're about to kick off Kansas City and Detroit. By the time you listen to this, that game will have been over, but we'll have some plays for you for this weekend, some Eagles conversation. But we will start with the Phillies since we have not spoke about them for a while. And they're getting closer to hopefully a red October. Let's go around. We have Jason Sayeda here. Jason.
What's up, Tom?
Not much. We got Jimmy the Chalk.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Back in his home base. And we got Christopher Michael Meeker.
Happy Football Thursday.
Yeah, baby. Let's get it. Broad Street Hustle episode 71. Not just a podcast here. Playbook for success. Let's kick it off with the Phillies. So I got a question for you, Jason. And I think with the exception of Chalky, we kind of all had the Phillies in the last time we talked about them making the playoffs, but either getting knocked out by the Braves or getting knocked out by the Dodgers. I think advancing that first round. Maybe was that 3 weeks ago? I guess now. Has your prediction changed? Do you see the Phillies going any further, or do you see them getting knocked out a little earlier since the last time we talked?
So you're asking me, I think you said,
Jason,
right?
yes.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, I think the offense is now what we thought it was going to be. You know, Turner is red hot. I hope this paternity time off doesn't mess around with his timing because he was pretty much the hottest guy in the league. But Schwarber's now hot. Harper went on a little skid, but last game or two, he's starting to hit the ball better. So the lineup is what we thought it was. Now, the issue to me is the pitching. And I'm not talking about the staff or bullpen. I'm talking about both. Like, I'm very concerned about the pitching staff. I think Zach Wheeler is fine. You know, he's pitching like the ace that he is. Game one of any series, I'm fine with Zach Wheeler starting it. You got to be concerned with Nola. You have to be concerned with Nola. I mean, I think the key to the Phillies, how far they're going to go, is going to be Nola. If Nola doesn't straighten himself out, I don't know where they're going. I mean, you know, if he's your number 2 starter, you're in trouble if he's going to pitch the way he's been pitching. And then who else, you know, besides Wheeler, are you guys confident in that staff right now? Is there anybody?
I mean, I think you still have your best shot for a 3 in Ranger.
I agree. He's got to step up.
But you don't know where his game's going to go once
I
he comes
agree.
back here. But
Now, in saying that, I also said that the bullpen is right now the same question. Who are you confident in that bullpen?
Hoffman is probably the only guy.
Hoffman, okay. Now, I'm going to read you some stats because you guys know I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. So, Michael Lorenzen, okay? So, he has now pitched 4 games since his no-hitter. I'm going to read you guys the stats in all those 4 games. On August 8th, he pitched 3 1/3 innings, gave up 8 hits and 6 earned runs, okay? On August 23rd, I might have missed the start. I don't know if I have my dates right, but it's August 18th. It's not August 8th. It was August 18th was those stats. August 23rd, 5 2/3 innings, 8 hits again, 4 earned runs. August 29th, 6 innings, 8 hits again, 3 earned runs. Okay. September 5th, 6 innings, 8 hits again, 6 earned runs. So in the 4 starts since he threw 124 pitches in that no-hitter, he's now pitched 21 innings, given up 32 hits, 19 earned runs, and an 8.02 ERA. Did that start fry him? I think it did. And I think the solution is to take him out of the rotation and move him to the bullpen because you need to solidify the back end of that bullpen. Maybe get him as your 7th or 8th inning guy. And now he only needs to pitch 1 inning instead of 6 or 7 innings. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd be curious. Do you know? I know last game when those runs were given up, and I can remember he gave up a bunch in the first inning in one of the games. But I know last game it was later, right? He went like 3 or 4 without giving up a run. Then
Well, I
he kind of fell
believe
apart.
I believe in August 18th he did pitch the clean first inning, and then I think he fell apart in the second and third innings. And I'm pretty sure for all the starts he's been okay in the first inning or two.
Yeah,
You guys correct me
yeah,
if I'm wrong.
yeah. I
Then.
can't remember. I would be curious.
One of the starts he gave up 2 or 3 runs in the first.
Okay.
One of them. I'm not sure which date you're talking about, but I remember that. But I mean, on this topic, they were going to have to make a decision, I think, with one of these guys. I mean, we're going to continue with a 6-man rotation. I don't know. Maybe they were going to do that the rest of the year. But in the end, yeah, I think if you're looking at the bullpen from like what side of the arm, whatever you want to call it, is pitching best, I think the lefties like Strom, Alvarado, obviously has been hot and cold.
He can't
I mean,
find
he got
the
himself
plate.
in
He's having
trouble.
trouble
Got out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the right side is the ones I don't trust as much as the left side. I mean, it's not that I trust Alvarado, but I trust that he'll figure it out. Strom has been pretty good all year. So I think from the right side is where you need the help. So if you're talking like Sanchez, Suarez, or Lorenzen, I probably would agree with you and put Lorenzen in the bullpen. Plus, he used to pitch in the bullpen, so he's been used to situations like that. Now you're taking him out of the possible, third starter role in a short playoff series. So it all comes down to how well Rangers pitching, because I don't even know. I would actually say that I would probably trust Taijuan Walker more than Ranger at the moment. They don't know. I don't understand it, but they seem to score a lot of runs when he's pitching. I mean, that's why he's got 14 wins right now. So
Yeah, but you can't give a pitcher credit. You can't give
yeah,
him
you can't.
credit
You
for
can't
that's
You
scoring
can't.
runs.
They just
He's
seem to hit when he's pitching for whatever reason.
To me, he just always seems to be in trouble. Like he's
Yeah.
always in trouble.
He pitches the contact, and that's always going to get when the ball's in play. You never know.
Yeah.
But Ranger doesn't seem to have like his out stuff yet, and I don't know if that'll turn around in the next 3 weeks. But I said it, in several podcasts, it's all going to be about who's the hottest going into the playoffs, and you just choose your hottest of those pitchers. I don't think it's going to be Sanchez. It's going to be between Walker and Suarez or Lorenzen. And I think if you're going to move someone into the bullpen, it's got to be Lorenzen, mainly because of his performance lately, but also because he's been a bullpen pitcher in the past. I think that's the move you make. I don't know if you make it right now, but I think eventually you'll make the move.
But don't you think they would have to make it soon because you want to acclimate him to get back into that role and not like throw him right to the wolves?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see him pitch a little better though too. I'd like to see him kind of snap out of this funk he's in.
Yeah,
whether or not it's no hitter or not.
Moving him could snap him out as well. I mean, you don't. I mean, to Jason's point, now it's 4 games. It's not one game fine, 2 games fine. Now it's game 4, and he still hasn't figured it out. So yeah, there's some reason for concern there, for sure. And you could see it. His pitches are elevated. It's pretty obvious. You could see like why they're smacking him around a little bit. So before I go to Chalky, so Jason, has your prediction changed though?
Has my prediction changed? I think they have a legit shot because I think the Braves, like I've been saying, the Braves are not what they were. They're still playing okay, but they're not what they were. The Dodgers have a lot of issues right now. The Dodgers, I mean, you talk about the Phillies pitching staff. You have an old Clayton Kershaw as your number 1 starter, and then who do you have? Now that Urias is basically done, and
Gonsolin's done,
and Lance Lynn is batting practice. Is my prediction changed? I think they could. I think they can make it. They can make a move as long as Nola straightens himself out.
I got news for you. I think they need the Cubs to catch the Brewers and take over that division, because if they're forced to play the Cubs in the wild card, which they would be right now, right? The one's going to play the 2.
Brewers are no joke either, though, man.
Yeah, I feel like the Cubs are so hot, the hot team on the rise. I don't want to catch them in that, even if it is at home. I don't want to catch them. Now, them being home, I do think will carry a lot of weight. Meeker, has your prediction changed?
Well, I had them losing to the Braves, and I don't think I would change my prediction with that. If they did run into the Dodgers, I think they could beat the Dodgers. Whether that happens in the NLCS or it happens before then, depending on how it all shakes out, because of what Jason mentioned. Dodgers have a lot of pitching injuries right now. I was never really. I mean, I know their run differential is what are they? Maybe second in the National League or right up there. But I was never really, other than Freeman and Betts, like fearful of their lineup, and that's why I think we kind of faded the Dodgers coming into this year. But they do score; they still end up scoring a lot of runs. I am concerned about the first round if you have to play Chicago, just because of what you said. And they have two pretty good pitchers at the top of their rotation that match up well against the Phillies. And I would probably rather play Milwaukee than the Cubs, especially if they continue this heater that they're on for the rest of the month. And chances are, if they do, they may end up catching Milwaukee, and then we'll catch Milwaukee in the first round. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I would be more actually I would be more fearful of playing the Cubs or the Brewers than the Dodgers at this point. But if they run into the Braves, I still think the Braves are the best team in baseball, and their lineup is deadly. And I think that they'll end up winning that series.
Yeah, I tend to. I just, I know Jason's points against the Braves, that they're just like a team I haven't seen in a long time, with especially 1 through 5. Just, I mean, that lineup is killer. So my prediction has not. I still see them winning the first round, losing out in the second round. Chalky, now you were the lone wolf that had the Phillies going to the World Series and losing. So the same question, but I guess it's just different. Do you still see them going to the World Series, or has your prediction changed for worse? I guess it would be.
I mean, look, like I said at the time, picking against the Braves is just being a little bit of a contrarian, but I honestly do see this team as a team that can get out of the NL. And, I mean, said it earlier, they're basically, in order for them to do that, they're going to have to replicate how things went last year. So hitting season is now in full effect. So the bats are cooking. You don't want to be giving up 10 runs a game, but the pitching isn't concerning me to the same extent as maybe everybody else, in that this team isn't built to win 2-1, 3-2 games. You're going to face Atlanta. Atlanta's going to get their run. So if you're only scoring 2 runs a game, you're not winning those games no matter how great your pitching is, because you're not shutting out Atlanta in a 5 or 7 game series. So they're going to need to score 5, 6, 7 runs, and hopefully the pitching doesn't completely implode and put them in a situation where they need to score 8 runs a game. I think your rotation is going to have to be similar to last year. It's, you're going to have Wheeler, 1, Nola 2. I agree with Meeker. I think Walker's your 3, and your 4th is a bullpen game. So that's some mix of Suarez, Lorenzen, and or Strom, depending on who they have to use out of the bullpen in the other games. I don't trust Ranger right now to be a 5, 6, 7 inning guy. He's been on the DL twice, so I think 3 or 4 is maybe the most you're going to get out of him as an opener. And then you can go to Lorenzen or Strom for another 2 or 3 innings, hopefully, and then let the back end of the bullpen close it up. It's not ideal, but that's how they had to kind of run it last year, and I think they're not going to have a different option at this year. And, I think giving Lorenzen a little bit of a break is the only chance you have to sort of get him straight. I mean, Jason mentioned his stats since the no-hitter. If they would have pulled him in the 6th inning of that game, he already would have set a career record for innings pitched, right? So he was going to be, when we kind of talked about it, he's going to be hitting a wall, and he's there, it seems like. So, could he have done something that screwed him up for the rest of the year? Sure, but he's already going to be past the point, whatever he does after that, where he's got a career record. And that was in early August, so almost 2 full months of the season left. So, that was going to be an issue. I'd like to see him skip a start if they could, but, with their other situation at starter and Suarez, I don't think that's really going to be an option at this point. But, Atlanta's great. nobody is striking the fear of God in me in this National League. So if this team is going to hit the way they can hit and the way they've shown over the last couple of weeks they can, I will take them against any team in the league, and that includes Atlanta. So
Okay, sounds good. Anything else Phillies related? I think that was the only kind of question I had was around predictions. I had some issues with the pitching, which we kind of covered. Jason covered, brought it up. Hitting has been phenomenal. Um, anything
The
else?
defense is still not phenomenal. They're still making mistakes in the field.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
that's
Um,
not going to
correct that.
change.
yeah, but I mean, a game was cost by defense, but they've improved since the year has gone on. Obviously,
Here's one thing we could briefly discuss. And again, the guy has been unbelievable at the plate, but Turner at shortstop. Are you guys starting to think that maybe next year you try Turner at second and stop back at shortstop?
I said it on the last time we talked about the Phillies. I would.
I don't know if he can make the throw like consistently. He has an issue making that throw.
I mean, I'm assuming
from
you think Stott's not going to be. Stott will be as good. I mean, Stott's playing like almost Gold Glove caliber second base right now. You want to? I mean,
Yeah,
he's
but you
playing
can give up a
shortstop
second
next
baseman
year,
to
but-
improve at shortstop.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, Turner hasn't played much shortstop at all, right?
Second base, you mean?
Yeah, second base. I'm sorry.
He
He
played
came
some
up.
with the Dodgers.
When he came up, he played second.
I could train a monkey to play second base.
It's not the toughest position.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
your worst infielder plays first base, but second base too. Yeah, I would be
It's worth a shot.
Dude, the way they turn that double play.
It's not good.
I mean, I
It's not
pause
fluid.
it, I rewind it to watch to see like why it's so bad. I guess
And part
it's
of
just
part of
slow.
that Stott too. Stott's
He
not
doesn't
the
make the
greatest.
turn quick, but
No.
Turner doesn't. He put Stott in a bad position. I think last game where he had to come across his body.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's
not
good.
fluid.
It's
I
not.
wouldn't be against grabbing Gene as a defensive replacement, like in the ninth inning, if you're up by a couple runs for
I
the
think he's
playoffs.
done.
Like, I mean, you don't want to take Turner out in a close game, but I don't know.
I would
don't
be for.
feel
I would be
100%
all for
comfortable
it.
with him either. So to be honest,
I would be totally for that, because is at some point Turner's going to have to move out of shortstop, right? If he is here for 10 years or whatever, is he your shortstop for 10 years? No way.
No,
Right.
He would have to move.
Right.
Yeah.
He would have to move at some point. I mean, and you
Yeah.
have a guy who can replace him right now. So, yeah.
It's worth a look, I think. I mean, I don't think you do it right now, of course.
No,
but
I
maybe
think you think about it for next
experiment
year.
that in the off season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else before we move on to the NFL? I think everybody just wants to move on here. Everybody wants to talk football. I know I got it on in the background, so you may keep seeing my head turn, catch a couple plays here. There's a punt. But let's talk NFL. And as we do with all our shows, typically we will start with the Eagles, and then we go into our kind of overall NFL picks. As the year goes on, we'll recap some of obviously the game that happened, the league, the games in the league. But being the first season, we don't have a recap, so we're going to jump right into Eagles. Your thoughts on the Eagles? We usually give out a score, which includes obviously if they win the game, cover the spread, etc. So we'll keep Jason first. So Eagles, Patriots, I think we're at 4 was the last time I checked the line.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
something like
it's
that.
still there. Where are you at? I know you were under on the win total for the year. So is this a game they win, or a game they lose, or where are we looking?
I'll tell you what. The more I looked into this game, the one thing I will say is, if anyone out there is listening that is in a Survivor League, I would not pick the Eagles in this game. Now, I'm not saying that they're probably not going to win, but I would, when you look back at New England's numbers, their points per play and their yards per play offensively, they weren't terrible last year. They were like mid-pack at worst. And defensively, they were very good. They were like top 5 in one of the stats and top 7 in the other. you're giving Belichick a whole off season to study Hurts, to study the Eagles' offense, to figure out a plan to kind of try to stop them in this game. I think this is a really tough spot for the Eagles to start the season. I'm 50-50 on them winning the game. I think they will. I'm leaning towards them. New England's got a few injury issues that's not going to help them. So I'm gonna slightly lean to the Eagles. I'll say the score is 24-21. But I won't be surprised if they lose. I would not.
Yeah. So the whole you give Belichick, I've heard it all week, a year since Tom Brady's left. I think he's like 1-4 first game of the season. So or 1-3. I'm sorry, 0-2 his last 2 seasons. So I think some of give Belichick to study a player is because he had Tom Brady as his quarterback.
It could be, but also
that's why
he had
his record.
He had a clown offensive coordinator last year too, so that didn't help the offense.
And the year they were lost the year, they got smoked the year prior to the Rams. So I'm just saying, I'm going to throw out stats that are going to be anti-Eagles. So I'm just saying on that front, teams that lost the Super Bowl. Where do I got it here? Teams that lost the Super Bowl are 23-31 against the spread, so 43%, 28-26 straight up, so only 52%. But more recently, they're 4-19 against the spread and 9-14 straight up. So trends do not favor the Eagles when it comes to, the losing the Super Bowl. And I'm a believer, Meeker. What am I a believer in when it comes to the NFL?
Death?
I wish somebody would die. It makes it easier. Nah, come on. It's Tom Brady. Isn't it like Tom Brady retirement night? They're honoring Tom Brady, all that stuff. I mean, the NFL loves to see that. I think this is a much tougher game, just like Jason said, than people probably Eagles fans will want to believe. However, I still see it going over the win total. So when I came through my prediction, I wanted to predict a score that does have the Eagles winning but not covering the spread and staying under. So I was at 20-17. So they win by 3. They don't cover the 4. I think it's a much closer game, and I would not be surprised at all if the Eagles do not win this game. Chalky?
I don't see it as easy as some people are certainly saying. I would not advocate the Eagles as a survivor pick either. Belichick is going to find a way, find some ways to confuse Hurts and do some things. They're going to try to turn it into a rock fight. This can't be a shootout, or else New England has no chance. They can't keep up consistently on offense. So the only way they win a high-scoring game is if they get, a kick six or a run back or something like that. Because drive in and drive out, I don't think their offense is going to be capable of hanging. So you're going to want to get messy, a little dirty, and try to muck it up a little bit. I just think the Eagles are too good, and New England just isn't that great of a team this year, as we talked about last week. I'm going to go 23-16 Eagles win and I guess cover, right? I don't think it's going to be particularly pretty. I don't think it's going to be one of the greatest games we've ever seen played, but they'll find a couple ways in, and Mac Jones maybe throws 2 interceptions. We'll see.
Meeker?
So in the game, we have the debut of 2 coordinators for the Eagles, 1 coordinator for New England. And I think that the Eagles' schedule is a little bit more favorable for early on. That will help with the transition. So not really worried about that part of it. I think New England tries to control the game on the ground, with Stevenson and Zeke. Try and keep it third and manageable for Mac Jones. Mac Jones is not the kind of guy that you have to, you want to depend on to make a big play to win a game. And Jason mentioned that the Patriots have 2 questionables I'm seeing today in their wide receiver core, which isn't a good wide receiver core to begin with. The matchup I'm interested in seeing is Gonzalez versus the Eagles wide receivers. Obviously, he's the first-round pick for New England, rookie corner. So we'll see how he does. I think the Eagles will go at that matchup and see if they can exploit it. And I think the Eagles should keep New England like under 20 points, and they'll probably score 30. So I'm going to go Eagles 30, New England 20. I think they might keep it close in the first three quarters. The Eagles pull away in the fourth quarter, maybe like a late touchdown. Hurts 3 combined touchdowns for the game, maybe 1 running, two throwing the ball. I think just look. I mean, it's defensively, New England is a pretty good team, but the Eagles just have too much firepower for that, and if they have to try and keep up offensively, they're not going to be able to do it, like Chalky said. And it's just I'm not sold that it's going to be a tough game. I think the Eagles win the game. Like I said, by 10 points. That's covering the spread. So I don't know, this whole hoopla that you're talking about with the whole Tom Brady thing and all that. I mean, they're not really a good football team. We all said
A
it.
lot of bad football teams beat better football teams.
True, but I don't think that happens.
I don't think they're a bad football team. I think they're a mediocre football team. I don't think they're bad. If you look at their stats, they're not bad. Now, it all depends on Mac Jones, too. I don't think
I mean,
they're
they
a bad
weren't
team.
a bad. They were
They're not
on
a
the
bad
cusp of
team.
making the playoffs at one point late in the season last
They
year.
blew out everybody's Detroit Lions last year, if you guys remember. They embarrassed them. Like, they're not a bad team.
I think they're significantly worse on offense.
They're not a bad team in this NFL because there's such a lot of bad teams, but I don't think they're a good team. I think they're below the 15 mark, so they're worse than the top tier. Top 6, what is it, 32 teams in football? So top 16 teams, you're going to name them. New England's not going to be in the top 16, so they're below average.
And as we
To me,
see,
that makes them bad.
Joe Burrow's just signed a 5-year extension worth $275 million. Is now the highest paid NFL player.
Little shocker.
There you go. One thing I saw was after the Eagles lost to the Raiders was about 2 years ago, earlier in the season. They've had a double-digit lead in 80% of their games, which is insane. And that was the recipe of how they won football last year, right? Was just get a big lead, then they get their sack guys to just put pressure on the quarterback, put up big sack numbers, cause turnovers, control the game on the ground, and their fourth quarters sometimes weren't pretty, but they had the big leads and they couldn't overcome them. So I don't know. You'll probably try to see that recipe, obviously, again. I think a lot is dependent on how they treat Hurts. So if they are conservative with Hurts and they try to make him into more of a quintessential not pocket passer, but don't want to use him running as much, I don't think that's going to be successful for him. So we'll see. I don't know with the new coordinators how they're going to look. I don't know, like Meeker said. So I just think it's going to be a close game.
I was going to say I kind of see them stepping back a little bit with like running him like
for
touchdowns and stuff like that. Like in like he's basically like their halfback.
Yeah,
like once they get inside the 5-yard line.
I don't disagree. I mean,
I don't. Yeah, I think they're going to back off of that this year.
On that front, I'm interested to see how this new look backfield, how they're going to, put them in certain. I'm sure that they're going to do a lot of switching out, putting these running backs in certain situations that plays to their strengths, but they don't have a feature back, and that's why they depend on Hurts.
I think Penny will be early downs, and I think Gainwell and Swift will be.
Yeah, and I think you'll see some more passing to the backs. That was a big part of their game that was missing over the last few years.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to throw a lot to Swift early, at least.
So I could see that. So you might see a new wrinkle that maybe New England isn't necessarily prepared for because they don't have film on that type of offense that the Eagles have. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, they have one of their linemen, right? This is a new line per se, right? With who's it? Is it 2 guys or 1 guy? 1 guy, right? The guard
On the O line.
On the Eagles O line, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
Jurgens.
Jurgens. So
Yeah,
see how they
replace the Sayamalo.
Sayamalo, right? So see how they gel together, I guess.
Yeah.
New England, I don't know. I'm not sure, so I can't speak to their line. So we'll see.
They got a guy. Didn't they just put somebody on IR? I think
Their offensive line's a little banged up. I think
that
could be
a big problem for them.
Yeah, that could be a big
if they get behind, it's going to be trouble. I think so.
Yeah.
I think I do think they'll keep it close. I mean, Eagles are going to get up by 21 points. I don't at any point. I don't think, but if the Eagles can tee off, yeah, it's curtains.
Do you guys think I mean, I don't think I was on the show when you guys were talking about it, but um, I think their defensive. I'm talking about the Eagles. I think their defensive line is better this year than it was last year. I think the defense on the whole is better than it was last year. They got younger,
Um,
they got faster. Speed is big in the NFL, makes up for a lot of mistakes. So
Yeah, I just don't know if you could say that.
well,
I mean,
Hargrave's a good player. I
it's
mean,
Hargrave had
he
possible,
a
is.
great
but you
year.
lost Hargrave.
yeah.
Your safety position is younger, but do we know if it's like Blankenship's better? I have no
I think
idea.
he's a weak
Yeah,
spot
right.
on the defense.
Do we know if N'Kobe Dean is better? His name's bigger, but do we know if he's better than T.J. Edwards? And then
Yes, we know.
I don't. He's played how much? How many NFL snaps has he played?
Enough.
I mean,
Edwards was good this year.
yeah, obviously.
He had a good
I mean, you
year.
have no idea. N'Kobe
We'll
Dean.
find out, but I
We'll get
actually
ahead.
think it's better. I think bringing the 2 draft picks with Smith and
Yeah, when
James.
you're relying on a lot of inexperienced NFL players to be better than experienced veterans.
Yeah, but these guys played in big time college
That
programs.
don't mean nothing. They're
Doesn't
rookies
mean
to the
I think it
NFL.
means something.
It doesn't.
I think it means
They're
something.
How
they
many-
mean
how
something
many-
in the course of their career, but not their
Yeah,
first season.
How many Alabama quarterbacks are good in the NFL?
I'm not talking about quarterbacks. We're talking about
So we're picking and
defensive
choosing
play.
which positions we think it matters for playing in big time football games and
Yeah, it
not.
doesn't
in big
matter.
Oh,
time.
they're
if
playing
you're a
against
good
an
player.
Alabama quarterback. He's not good. So there you go.
Yeah.
They'll
Okay.
be fine. The linebackers will be fine. The linebackers were not good by the end of the year last year. Edwards started out good, didn't finish very well. Neither did White. And I think on the Hargrave, his production will be hard to replace for sure. The other concern on the line is Graham and Cox kind of found the fountain of youth last year a little bit. They're a year older. Can you expect that same production again?
I agree.
I'm going to say no. Now, of course, Davis can get better, and Carter looks like the player that you would think he was going to be, hopefully. And on the edge, Sweat and Reddick will be, and Smith. Smith. That if Smith can give you some reliable reps from that edge rushing position, then you'll be okay. But they're not going to set another record or close to another record in sacks. It's just the odds are they're not going to repeat that. So
You just named a bunch of guys who's never done it in the NFL, and you're just expecting them to do it in the NFL. I'm not saying they're not going to be better. I'm just saying I can't tell you they are going to be better.
I think if they were a top 2 defense last year, depending on what stats you're looking at, I think they're a top 10, but I think they're more bottom 7, 8, 9 than 1, 2, 3 this year.
We also don't know about the coordinator. Nobody liked Gannon, but
Well, they didn't like him because
Gannon's
he
a mealy mouth punk.
lost the Super Bowl, but
Gannon is a
they-
loser with a
they
capital
liked him
L.
during the year.
No, they
When they
didn't.
were
nobody
setting
did.
records.
No, they
Nobody
killed
liked
him.
Gannon throughout the
Not
year.
like him. I mean, but he was a good coordinator. Is my point. Like you weren't complaining about him during the.
They were plenty of people.
Listen to any people on radio. That's all they talked about was
Yeah.
Gannon.
And I
It's
think
like-
it was overblown, but I think he should
Gannon-
have
They had the
all
Gannon
that.
was
He
the
had
Kyle
like these-
Schwarber of the
Loser.
of the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying I can't say that they're going to be better. Their defense, they could be, but
I don't think that. No, I don't think that.
you're relying on a lot of rookies to make an impact on a team that traditionally rookies aren't that impactful in the core. They're good as here, but when you have compile a bunch of rookies, I don't know.
But they're not 5th round pick rookies. They're 1st round
Doesn't
pick
matter.
rookies.
Jalen Rager was a first round pick. Where's he at?
No,
The
well,
practice squad.
You can bring examples up. I understand what you're.
Well, right, but because it's a hit or miss, you don't. Just because they're early round, you don't know if they're going to be impactful.
No.
If you're
Okay,
bringing in
well,
young players, you can do
see
worse
what
than
happens.
recreating the best defense in college football history. But
There's a
Doesn't
lot
mean
of
they're
players in
gonna-
Alabama
doesn't
that
mean-
didn't work out.
doesn't mean they're going to be great pros. But when N'Kobe Dean wins most tackles and assists, you'll come back and say you were right.
Did you make that
You're
bet?
Chalky.
That was your bet, right?
That was my bet. I think
It
that's.
sounds
I
like-
think the brain
it sounds
fog
like-
was starting unknowingly at that point.
We have a lot of you got a lot of pennies being thrown in fountains and just wishing and using that as statistical facts. But
That's not a wish.
We'll see.
That's
And speaking of statistical facts, we're going to move on. And I got to be honest, I didn't care about the first 35 minutes and 12 seconds of the show. I really just wanted to hear the next 5 minutes of the show. Jason, you got the stats from last year. That's all I wanted to hear.
I do. We'll have to bring our listeners up to speed with.
So in case you did not listen to Broad Street Hustle, not just a podcast, but Playbook for Success, you may have missed some of our expert picks. So
Yeah.
Jason, take it away.
It's been 6 months, so listeners may have forgotten. So let's bring them up to speed here. So we're going to start with the overall league stats.
Excuse me, I'm going to eat my potato chips while I listen to this.
Okay, sit back, put your feet up. So the league stats, over-unders, if again, it's been 6 months, but the over was 119 versus the under of 152 last year. So under, and I feel, and I don't have the stats for that, but I feel a lot of the unders came early in the season. So I
was just going to ask you that. Did it tell you that?
So I have week one stats. If you care for just at least week one, I didn't do. So week one, overall, it's 194 to 165 and 2 is the unders. 54% unders on week one. Last year, unders was 11-5 in the first week.
Right.
So 63% on the first week.
Yeah, and I think that carried forth, and then I feel like after the fourth or fifth game, Vegas started to kind of adjust the unders down, or the line down. So keep an eye on that for this year. The public was an over-unders was 133 and 137, so not terrible. Versus the spread, the public was terrible. They were 121 and 146. And now we will start with our show stats. So if you guys remember last year, we're going to do the same thing this year. We gave out 3 picks and our best bet, each week. So we'll start with Mr. Meeker. Meeker went 23 and 28 last year with his picks. He at one point he was like, I feel like he was like 10 and 20 or something. And he kind of.
I think the end of the year he made a nice turnaround.
Made a little bit of a comeback, I think. Yeah. So his profit, because we assume $100, bet for each pick. So his profit was a negative 719, and his ROI was negative 14%. His best bets. This is where Meeker kind of stood out with, if he wanted to fade anyone on the show. Meeker's best bets, he was 6 and 11, and he definitely came on in the end with that. I feel like you were like 1 and 8 or 9 at some point, if I remember correctly. So his best bets, his profit was a minus 563 and a minus 33%. So, Meeker, we're going to expect you to step up your game this year, especially with your best bets.
I have to do Costanza and just do the opposite.
I think at one point, so either you or Chalky, that was the strategy that was being utilized.
Yeah. So Chalky, you were 24 and 29 and 1 in your picks, minus 710 profit, minus 13% ROI. Your best bets were 9, 8, and 1. You were profitable, $45 with a 2% ROI. Tommy, your picks were 28, 18, and 2. $865 profit, 18% ROI, 61% win percentage. So very good there. Your best bets were 10, 5, and 1. $535 profit, 33% ROI. And then I was 33, 19, and 1. Profit of $1,093, 21% ROI, 63% win percentage. And my record was 12, 5, and 1 for best bets. $570 profit and 32% ROI. Overall, we had some guests on during the year. I'm not going to go through every guest, but overall, the podcast itself for picks was 108, 94, and 6. We were profitable, $174 profit, 0.8% ROI, 53% win percentage. Our best bets were 39, 34, and 3, $365 profit, and 5% win percentage. So we were a profitable podcast.
And you can catch us free on all your platforms.
Free.
All right. Well, I'm not going to make the public wait. I just can't do it to him. I'm going to go right to Meeker. I need your 3 picks. Remember, your first pick is your best bet. So you tell us your best bet, please. And we don't want to hear
I'm going to save the best bet for the last
Okay, that's
of
fine.
the
As
explanation.
As long as
that-
you
But I will tell you what the best bet
Okay,
is.
we could deal with that. Take us
So,
away.
since we don't have like a pulse yet on the league and what's going on, other than all the pundits and what they say and who looks good in preseason, who looks bad in preseason, blah blah blah. I'm just going to go with teams that I think have a statement to make in week 1, and I'm going to start out with the New York Jets.
Oh God.
I'm going to take them plus 2.5 against the Bills. To beat them, what did Ric Flair say? To be the man, you have to beat the man. So, look, I think this is a statement game for the Jets. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers' first game, the whole 9/11 thing. You want to talk about some of the things with Tom Brady against the Eagles and why that's a possibility of them losing. I'm taking all that into consideration, and I picked the Jets to win the division. And if I pick the Jets to win the division, they got to win a game like this in week 1.
This is not your best bet, right?
No, it's not.
Okay.
But they're catching 2.5 points in this game. I think they win the game outright. I'm not going to just bet the money line. I'm going to take the 2.5 points just in case I need it. And I picked the Jets to cover the 2.5 against the Bills.
So you probably don't have it, but going forward, please have what the DraftKings like minus. I have it.
2.5.
It's minus 108 for that. So.
Oh, okay. No, I don't write that down.
And
I'll depend on you
Meeker
for
not
that.
using DraftKings throughout the year is about a minus 5,000 for each show.
Yeah.
Well, that's the DraftKings line.
Well, I just I'm not trying to stick up for him too much, but I feel like this week there's more different lines in the minus 110s on the spreads on DraftKings.
But we don't.
So,
We tell people to shop around, but for podcast purposes,
Yeah, for our tracking,
record
we have,
saying
we keep
we're not used to not being 110, so give the guy a break for 1 week. That's all.
but he didn't.
But
have
if he would have just
his
looked at
stats.
DraftKings,
No, keep
Yes.
putting no effort into it. We understand that.
I got to keep Jason on his toes. He's the one that's got to write this stuff down,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
all right. Second statement game, Denver against the Raiders. So, what's it? Denver's given 3.5 points. I'm a little bit worried about the half, but I'm not going to buy it. I'm just going to take the 3.5. Sean Payton needs to make a statement.
That's a minus 105 game before we get into that.
Thank you,
That's
Chalky.
not a minus 110.
Thanks for doing your homework, Chalky. Some people don't do their homework. Sister Bernard's.
So Payton needs to make a statement in game 1. They're playing a division rival. It's the biggest rival, for Denver. Wilson needs to show that he's not as bad as he was last year and shake off the rust and maybe become old Russ. I don't think that's going to happen for the full year, but maybe for one game. I like Denver minus 3.5 against the Raiders. Finally, my best bet, the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to pick them minus 3.
so you went with Sean Payton, the Saints, and the Jets have some kind of connection, I'm sure.
There's no connection.
That's a minus 115 line, by the way.
So the Saints are giving 3 to Tennessee Titans. So, Tennessee, obviously, most of their offense is Derrick Henry. I think the Saints' strength is their defensive line, which was a weakness going into the offseason, but they've definitely figured that out. And the statements, are, hey, Derek Carr, he needs to show that, wasn't money not well spent. And he's got something to prove, and so does Michael Thomas. So I think offensively, the Saints come out at home, make a statement, beat a team that I think is really not a good team in the Tennessee Titans, and the Saints win by about 2 touchdowns in this game.
If I may, one thing I will say with Meeker's picks this year, he did go against the public in every pick. So I think we have some positives to look at with these picks.
The only thing I will say, and I was going to use that on and I don't have, the first week I do, first couple weeks, well, the first week, the public, actually, I believe does pretty well, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know about
It's
that.
the second week the public gets hammered.
Maybe. It's possible.
And I feel like it being week 1 and only Thursday, that those public sites that, like the sites we use, you may see some drastic shifts in the percentages of like where the public is versus where the public is.
Well,
So
that goes to say
I'd be a little
that
careful with that this week.
well, that would go to say that the public is picking teams, picking more favorites, right? Than underdogs, because most of the public pick favorites. They don't really side on the underdog side, I would say, more often than not. So that would mean week 1 they're just picking better teams.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, who they think are better. Right?
Yeah, right. It's because the thing with week 1 is you're using last year to predict what's going to happen this week, which makes it why it's hard. You don't really know these teams. So, I don't put much stock in the public for the first week. I don't look at that as much.
So going forward, and please do it for this, you need to number your picks. So your best bet was the Saints. What was your number 2 pick?
Number 2 pick is the Denver Broncos. Number 3 pick is the Jets.
Okay.
Do the opposite. Go ahead, Chalky.
All right.
How do you know I'm going to Chalky next?
Because you're going in order of how we finished, I'm sure.
And
I know Chalky's right behind me.
So it'll be the only thing you're right about this week. Chalky, go ahead with your picks.
Chalky, could you please give your best bet first?
And again, DraftKings is the site.
I have DraftKings. My best bet is going to be under in the Jaguars Colts game. So that's under 46.5 minus 110 at DraftKings. It could be a blowout, but Colts are going to struggle to score points, I think, and a lot of action has been pushing that line up, but I'm going to say go under on that for that game. Second pick is going to be San Francisco against the Steelers. I'm not messing around with points, so I'm going to take the money line there. That's minus 130, San Francisco on the money line. Again, people are gushing over Pittsburgh. Pickett was great in preseason, blah, blah, blah. Will Bosa be able to play that much, blah, blah, blah. San Francisco could get caught in a trap, but I think they're going to win the game. So take them money line minus 130. And I didn't really have a plan B, so my third pick is also going to be the Jets. However, I am taking Jets on the money line. That's plus 114 against Buffalo to win the Aaron Rodgers Monday night debut. So Jets, third pick, plus 114 money line.
Okay.
And since it's not Meeker's best bet, I feel a little bit better about it, but yeah.
It sounds like one of our other hosts may have also picked the Jets, and by the facial expressions and disgust I see in the top corner. All right, I will go and cede to Jason since he did have was the number 1 in the picks. So my best bet is Pittsburgh. So I did like to hear what our last co-host said.
So when he was setting up how you can't really go with the public and not, we should have known this was coming because all the public stuff is on Pittsburgh there.
No, I'll give you actual stats opposed to.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
So I'm going Pittsburgh money line too. Jason says plus 110 because unlike Meeker, when a team is getting less than 3 points, you automatically pick the money line. You never take the points because it's more profitable. Mike Tomlin as an underdog is 13-5-2, 72% straight against the spread. He's 12-8 for 60% straight up as an underdog in his career. Week 1, those stats were even better. So I am going with Pittsburgh. San Fran coming across country. My second pick is the Rams money line, which is plus 185. Sean McVay is 5-1 against the spread in his first week 1 of the season, and 5-1 straight up as well. Now he hasn't been an underdog. However, I do still have faith in the Rams, as I said in my preview show last week. And I'm getting a nice plus 185. And I think Seattle is going to be – they could be not a good team. And then my third pick is Houston at minus 9.5. So they were 10 earlier when I looked. And I have a suspicion that line might go back up to 10 by kickoff. But it's 9.5 now, so I got to take 9.5. And that was –
plus 9.5, right? You said minus.
Oh, plus yeah.
I would say you get about plus 600 if you wanted to lay 9.5.
What's
you get worse.
what is the minus?
Minus 110.
It's 110.
It's minus 110 for 9.5.
Yeah, it was the line truly changed, not the vig, because it was minus 10, minus 110 earlier. Now,
Yeah.
so it was a real, and that's a trend pick again. I don't, like I said, I don't believe in the public as much. I look more as week one trends, and underdogs from getting 5 points or more are 53% against the spread. And last season there were 7-2 against the spread. So there were some big spreads last week in week one, which was 78%. So I just kind of looked for teams that were getting more than 5. I was fading the Ravens to begin with to start the season. I feel like everybody thinks Lamar is going to come back and crush. So, and Houston's going to be a terrible team, which I do believe will be. But I could see Ryan's in his first game at least, putting up a fight and staying within that 9.5. So they're my 3 picks. Jason?
All right. So my best bet, unfortunately, is the Jets. Like I mentioned before, I'm high on the Jets this year. I'm not high on the Bills. I think Meeker's right. It's kind of like a Monday night, only game on, statement game for Rodgers, statement game for the Jets. I think the stadium will be going crazy. I like the Jets in this game. I'm not going to go money line. I know it's under 3, and I should, but with the 2-point conversion and all now, I don't know. I'm still okay with just taking the 2.5 here at minus 108. I do think they'll win the game, but I'd rather just take the points in this situation here. And then I'm going to give you 2 over-unders. The first one is going to be Panthers-Falcons. Rookie quarterback and a bad quarterback on the other side. The Falcons are going to run the ball. The Panthers probably going to run the ball a little bit to take pressure off of Bryce Young, not Cam Young. And keep me honest, the under is it's 39.5 and minus 110. And if anybody sees different, let me know. And then the other over-under is Meeker's Saints and Titans. Titans are going to run the ball. That Saints offense, I know they have Carr. I'm not a huge Carr fan, but I just see that's going to be a low-scoring game there. It's going to be under 42, and I believe it's minus 112.
Correct.
And it is minus 112. Okay, so under 42 and minus 112. That'll be my 3rd pick.
I agree with your under there. Should be the way you say.
Okay. So what do we do? Then we had, if anybody had any parlays or something like that,
parlays
or player props, something. I don't know if did anybody have a, Meeker, you usually have a couple, like usually a fun parlay put together. No, nothing this week?
No, not this week.
Chalky, anything?
I'm looking real quick now. I'm trying to see if
it's always a profitable way to play.
Well, Richardson, see if he's got like a throws 2 interceptions prop, because I think that's that was part of my going under. He's going to turn the ball over.
All right.
Anyway,
while you look, Jason, did you have any player props, any parlays? You usually have stuff as well.
I know, I do, and I don't, but I will for next week. I'll give you.
Yeah, I think week one is just like, don't use up your whole bankroll on week one, because it could be a tough week. You just don't know. Like we said, we predicted what happened last year. That maybe this happens this year. To Meeker's point, or is our team trying to make statements? You got new coordinators, you got rookies. There's just so much unknown, especially now with nobody plays in the preseason, so there's no real live action until this first game. If there's props around like penalties, total penalties in games, usually penalties are high. Refs call a lot of stuff early in the season to set the tone. I wish it's funny. I wish I read our article on what the emphasis is going to be this year. Every year the NFL puts emphasis on, whether it's defensive holding, blah, blah, blah. And usually you see a uptick in that, but I just didn't see anything this year. So just keep that in mind. Anything else you boys want to add before we wrap this up? It's a quicker show for being week one of the NFL.
So just real quick, they only have a flat over under. It's half. So Richardson over a half is 135, minus 135. So I'll give that out. But
I mean, that's actually not that bad if you like that. It's kind of
Yeah, I
well,
could definitely see that.
yeah.
I might bet it myself.
Coming into week one, is there a specific player, team, situation that you're eyeing and saying, I really want to see what happens with this? You have anything
The Eagles.
on that?
I mean, for me, be the
Yeah, I mean,
Eagles.
always the Eagles. I do think the Aaron Rodgers in New York and the Jets is a situation.
By virtue of my picks, I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, but
And Denver.
Denver, yeah, that's a big team to see if they can turn that around. I mean,
We should
it's
give
hard
that
to
stat out too, Tom. The Denver stat where they
the
I don't
in
have
at
it.
home early in the season or
First
whatever it
2
was.
weeks of the year when they play at home since 1990, there's something like I want to say 35-4 straight up.
yeah.
And that's an easy stat to figure out. It's the no oxygen, high altitude.
It's still summer, so it's hot.
It's hot. Players aren't conditioned yet.
Yep.
So, now they're going into mile high. They're having trouble catching their breath and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It definitely makes sense.
I mean, as far as a game I would like to watch, I'm not going to be able to because it's on the same time as the Eagles. But the Dolphins Chargers, that could be some offensive firepower there. We all kind of like Miami, I think, to some extent, and some of us definitely like the Chargers with Moore as a coordinator, but same time as the Eagles. So I won't be watching that unless I get YouTube TV, which I probably won't. But
Yeah, even Sunday night. I mean, Dallas Giants. We floated around. Who could the Giants be better than Dallas? Is Dallas blah blah blah? We'll see if the Giants were a team from last year who made the playoffs. Are they going to continue? So I mean, it's awesome. It's football. Like it's great. It's awesome that it's back. What can you?
It's kind of a under the radar type game, but I'm interested in seeing this Packers Bears game. I want to see what Jordan Love's all about. He hasn't really had an opportunity to really show anything other than like a couple relief appearances in preseason. But by all accounts, I mean, a lot of people like what they see, so we'll see. But I even saw some publications picking Green Bay to win in that division. I got them coming in last. I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly think a lot of that is people don't like Rodgers and they just want to, I know the one thing I keep hearing is that, the team didn't like him and the team's happy he's gone and this and that. We'll see. We'll see.
And the Lions just pulled a Lions move and fumbled.
I mean, I think part of that is a lack of trust of any other teams in the division to win the division, too.
Yeah, it's a bad division.
But I kind of think this, with respect to a lot of the quarterbacks that are either starting their first game or, kind of early on in their career, a guy that sat behind Rodgers for 3 years, was it 2-3 years? It's probably put in a much better position than anyone else on the field that not any of the other quarterbacks I'm talking about. So
if he could play.
Yeah.
I could sit behind Rodgers and then they could put me
was
in.
a first-round pick.
That doesn't mean anything. We
Yeah.
we already just talked about that. Doesn't mean anything.
What high-powered school did he go
But it's
to?
like a similar situation to Rodgers himself. Like he sat behind Favre for a few years.
but
that's Rodgers-
Hall of Fame.
Rodgers,
But
That's a Hall
Rodgers
of
can
Fame
he was a
play.
first-round pick. Love's a first-round pick. So we'll see. I mean, I think it's intriguing to see, and it's also intriguing to see, like if the Bears, like a lot of people like the Bears this year, and Justin Fields, if he's improving in the passing game. I mean, obviously we know he can run the ball, but I'm not sure how great a passer he is, and he would need to take that leap if they're going to win that division.
Yeah,
I know you like
Rodgers also stepped into a situation where, Favre left, but he was stepping into a team that lost in overtime of the league championship game the year before. Like Green Bay was up and down all last year, missed the playoffs, and I don't think they necessarily got better. So he's not stepping into the kind of talent that Rodgers had when he stepped in either, whether he's good or not.
Yeah, that's a game where if my remote control was broken, there was a spoon nearby,
Yeah.
I would use it to jab my eyes out.
If like
be honest with
nuclear Armageddon had happened and that was the only game that was left in the world, I might watch it.
I would still choose the spoon.
They're always good games when they play each
Bears
other.
and Packers.
Except Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears, but there's no Aaron Rodgers anymore.
Yeah, I mean the Packers were fun because they had Aaron Rodgers. But other than that,
Yeah.
you watch the four Aaron Rodgers. The
I
coach
just
kinda
can't
looks like a
watch
goof.
bad quarterback play. I mean, I know. I think Tommy's the same.
You bet turnovers. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, but it's just, I just see bad quarterback play, and it just drives me up a wall. Like, it just drives me
Do you
insane.
think Justin Fields is a bad quarterback?
I think he's a bad passing quarterback, and I think you need to pass the ball to win in the NFL. So I'm not crazy about Justin Fields. I don't like him,
Well, that's the kind of leap he needs to take, though. I mean,
but
if
I
they're if
don't
they're
see it
gonna
happening.
they're gonna compete in that division, he needs to show that he can pass the ball.
I don't
and,
see it
and that's
happening.
why I'm a little intrigued by it, because there's two quarterbacks that I'm kind of like, okay, well, what's up with these guys? Let's see, how they perform against each other. So
Yeah. Look, it's football. I mean, it's that's why the first week is awesome because you see some of that stuff. You still don't get an idea for it, but you start to see, and you got to avoid avoid injuries. I mean, some teams could lose the season in the first week with a big injury. So yeah, it's awesome. Football's back. I mean, there's not much else you can say. Can't wait to jump off the pod just to watch some of this game, just to watch some football. All right, that was episode 71 of Broadsheet Hustle. Next week we'll have to discuss off air because the Eagles do play on Thursday, so it could be somewhat of a
Oh,
problem
I didn't
to
realize that.
broadcast on Thursday. So we might have to shift our.
I would say we do Wednesday night then.
Wednesday.
That would probably make most sense. Yes. So was episode 71, and everybody could say it with me. It's not just a podcast; it's your playbook for success. Good night.
right.